Thank you guys and welcome. And I hope maybe at the end I'll hear a little bit about why you're here as well, if we have time. But I wanted to welcome you to the Invest in Yourself webinar. I'm Diana, and today I'm going to show you how you can make regular monthly income from the stock market without 10 computers and an MBA. But first off, I'm curious, have you been thinking that you need to start investing some way or perhaps saving for the future in some way, but you just don't know where to begin? Or maybe you have some money put aside in a savings account, or you funded a Robinhood account, but that's as far as you got because it just seems too complicated. I get it. It seems like the big dogs on Wall Street just, make it look complicated on purpose. So to keep the small investors out, right? If you've dabbled in the market in the past, or maybe bought some stock only to watch it drop suddenly for no apparent reason, I'm sure you got nervous and maybe thought the stock market is not for you. But maybe you just needed the right person to explain a few simple rules to you. Unfortunately, that person is not really the big company broker or the financial advisor, because their main goal is to make money for their company. Yeah, they're generally not interested in the kind of work I'm going to show you, or really in small investors, because that's not where their big commissions come from. The big dogs, even those who just think they're big dogs, really do want to keep the game to themselves, and they make it look complicated on purpose. But these days, the smaller players are starting to take back the game for themselves. Retail investors, that's all of us guys, are learning that the stock market can be an excellent place to actually make the kind of money that will make a big difference in their lives and bring back that elusive American dream that seems to be only for the very rich right now. All over social media, you see young people who are making investments and making a huge difference in their lives. One of the ways to do this is to safely and effectively invest in the stock market. What if I could show you, prove to you, that the stock market is not just a complicated maze of jargon and graphs and enormous computer banks, but rather a safe and effective way to make a lot of extra cash that you could use to fund all the kind of things that you dream of having? Do you work hard and play far too little because you think you'll never have that kind of money where you can take fancy vacations to exciting places? I can teach you a clear and simple strategy that I've been using for the past 15 years. It's called writing covered calls, and it's the most conservative and low risk strategy available to stock traders. And it's easy and fun. Yeah, fun. My basic 3-step system can have you making trades, and most importantly, regular monthly income of up to 10% per month on your trades. That will make your account grow faster than just parking money into a savings account or a robo trading account. I don't even know how that works. My goal for this presentation is to introduce you to a new possibility of generating some passive income through writing covered calls. For those of you who are beginners, you will get a great foundation in how to identify good stocks. For those of you with some experience, you will get a glimpse into a new strategy that could boost your stock portfolio exponentially. In the next hour, I hope to get you to believe that this strategy is the key to unlocking a regular flow of cash into your account that will make a big difference in your future. First, a little bit about me and why am I here talking to you about investments and portfolios, and where did I get all these crazy ideas like 10% or more each month of my money? I'm Diana Green. I love stock trading. I've made some great returns starting with just a small amount of capital. I have a fun and easy method for doing that, which anyone can grasp. And I want to tell you about how it works, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about my history first. My personal history with money is kind of a wild and crazy roller coaster ride. And although it may seem like I'm comfortable talking about money right now, for a long while there, when I was in my 30s, I didn't even want to talk about money, let alone, have any money. I mean, I didn't have any money. It seemed like something that other people did and other people worried about it. And I had more important things to do. I had a career to get going. I had small children to raise. And, that's a crazy full-time job by itself. And investing just seemed like a scary thing that involved men in fancy suits and who spoke complicated words and carried around briefcases with stacks of paperwork. And I didn't have time to think about IRAs and investments. I somehow thought someone else was just going to take care of that for me. You know what I mean? How did I get that idea? You'd think that a woman of my generation who grew up with incredible role models like Gloria Steinem and her crowd would be fired up to take charge of their life in all ways, including financial. But you'd be wrong. Nobody taught me about money when I was a young woman, or even when I got to be an adult. When I was married, my husband managed most of that stuff. And when I felt powerless about it and didn't understand what was going on, we had some ugly arguments. Where did all that powerlessness come from? Do you sometimes feel lost when you talk about your finances? It's not a good feeling, right? It started, I think, way back when I was a kid. I grew up in the light of a rich grandfather who seemed to control the whole world. When he was happy with my mom, the sun shone and we were able to travel to Europe and visit him and eat wonderful food. But when they weren't speaking, he withdrew his support. And we ate cereal with mouse turds in it. And we turned the heat way down to save every penny. No, really. So what I learned from that was that when other people have control of your money, they can make you happy or they can make you suffer, and you can't stop them. And then my grandfather died when I was in college, and my mom inherited a bunch of money, but unfortunately, she had the same ideas about money that I had in my 30s. She didn't really want to actually manage it or talk about it. And I learned later that deep down, she really felt she never deserved it because of the way that she and her father fought all the time. So she let all kinds of fast-talking guys persuade her to make investments in macadamia farms and mutual funds that went nowhere. She paid for my college and trips and such, but ultimately the money I benefited from wasn't really mine. So I had to sit by and watch her spend it on terrible investments because this or that advisor told her where to put it. Meanwhile, I was pursuing a career in theater, not a comfortable world in terms of financial security, but I felt confident that I would get some kind of inheritance someday, so I didn't really worry about providing for myself. I'm sure you know where that kind of thinking got me. My mom gave me and my brother each a small amount of money out of what she had inherited from my grandfather, but she had it automatically invested with that same firm where she was getting her advice from. I don't really remember much about those first investments, except for the humiliating phone calls that I had to make to the broker every time I needed a little money for a big purchase like a car or, down payment or something. I hated having to basically beg some guy that I didn't even know to send me some money. He always sounded so disappointed in me, as if I should have been managing my expenses better somehow. This just gave me more mistrust of all those guys in suits who manage money for a living. They seemed mean and they made me feel helpless. I do remember how that relationship ended, though, because one day, seemingly without warning, I saw a statement and it looked like my account had lost half its value seemingly overnight since the last statement I had looked at. And I was shocked. I had an ugly conversation with this same broker wherein he tried to tell me, oh, yeah, well, the markets go up and down all the time and you just have to roll with it. Well, I closed that account right there and then. I had him send me a check. And we ended up putting all that money into a house, which seemed like a good idea at a time. And then I got divorced and half that money went to my ex-husband. So I promised myself that I would never again let someone else tell me what to do with my money. It was like my Scarlett O'Hara moment, as God is my witness. Okay, enough drama. After my life settled back down, a friend started telling me that she was making some really good money in the stock market. Oh no, I thought, not again. But she was a friend who was a writer and an actor, and to be honest, a little ditzy. And so this made me curious. How was she navigating the stock market of all things? She wasn't rich to begin with, and she didn't seem like a crazy gambler. And finally, I was curious enough to ask her how she learned about the stock market. I mean, what if I could actually understand how to make investments for myself? Then I wouldn't have to rely on this middleman broker guy. So my friend brought me to an amazing workshop called the Wealthy Artists Millionaires Club. First of all, the idea of a wealthy artist was mind-blowing. I mean, everyone knows artists are supposed to be starving, right? Well, I got up the courage to go, figuring, oh, okay, it's one evening, so I wasn't risking too much. And it turned out to be a wonderful club of writers and actors and painters, basically a room where I felt very comfortable. And the leader knew exactly who he was teaching because he made the lesson so fun and easy that before we knew it, we were actually buying stock and making option trades. And I started learning about stocks and mutual funds and options through stories and pictures. And trading stocks suddenly seemed like something I could definitely do. A whole new path opened up for me where I could take charge of my own financial journey. No more did I have to rely on the whims of guys in suits who were not interested in my personal security. And, really, why should they be anyway? I mean, that should be up to me. I was so relieved to learn that it didn't take a lot of technical babble to be able to understand how to make money in the stock market. I also learned how to set myself a good foundation for success by examining my history with money. I learned that my family, although they got to flirt with being wealthy, never really considered money to be their ally. So they let it fly away because they never really believed that it should be theirs to begin with. I learned how to change my attitudes toward money so that money and I would be friends and coworkers. When my marriage fell apart, I was forced to become the responsible person who managed the family finances for myself and my kids. The lessons that I learned at the Wealthy Artists Millionaires Club were really put to the test. I had a little money that my grandmother then left me when she died, and I took the plunge and put that money to work in the stock market. I spent 4 years trading with that club and went from someone who was scared to face money or even talk about it to someone who made informed choices about how I spent my money on investments. I grew that small portfolio into money to buy a house with, and I created a level of security for myself and my kids that I had never experienced before. Today, I have a home that I love. I have the freedom to travel someday. And I have an investment account that will secure the future of my family. I have all of these things because I learned some simple strategies that insiders who manage money for big investors know and use every day to make their clients millions of dollars. These strategies are available to all of you too, as long as you have a computer and a modest amount of starting capital. The biggest challenge is to take that first step. Most people are negative first, and I was no different. Since I'd had such bad experiences with the stock market in the past, I could only see a big, ugly wall between me and that world of confident investors. But when I looked around and realized that the investors in my club were regular people, I started to soften my resistance. If actors and painters could figure this stuff out, then I could too. I hope you're ready to take just a few small steps toward a brighter future with me. Try to be open. I'll start you off slow. Let's go. I've got a keynote presentation that I'm going to bring up now, and I'm going to be talking under it. So bear with me one second. All right. Whoops. Forgot to do the share screen. There we go. All right. So in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you how you can understand a few things that are holding you back from becoming a successful investor, how you can learn about good potential investments without having 10 computer screens and a stack of manuals, and how you can make regular monthly income off the stock market with basic investments. To get really serious about this money-making badassery, you need to get clear on your relationship with money as it looks right now. And don't worry if it looks bad, you can fix that, okay? So think about, just quickly as I'm talking, and maybe you can write them down on a pad next to you, a few things that you grew up knowing about money. What were you told about money as a kid? What did you observe about adults who had money or adults who didn't have money? Are you familiar with some of these common ideas about money? Money doesn't grow on trees. How about things like that person is filthy rich, or money is the root of all evil? And of course, people always say, oh, you can't make money being an artist or a writer or singer, carpenter. And then people always talk about how we can't afford that. Oh, that's too much for us, right? All of this negative stuff reinforces our negative relationship with money. If you talk shit about money, money will turn right around and go the other way and find someone else who will sweet talk it. And besides, what did money ever do to get all this bad mouthing? Money is not the root of all evil. Human beings can be nasty and destructive, no matter whether they are rich or poor. They can also be benevolent instruments of change, and money can help with this situation. So your first step, which you can do on your own anytime, is to examine your own history with money and turn your negative thoughts inside out and dump them. Take some refrain that you and others have repeated endlessly, which only serves to make money into a bad guy, and turn it around so that you can have a new power phrase to reinforce your improving relationship with money. For instance, money is the root of all evil could become money is the gateway to endless joy. This is the first step to an ongoing journey, so start now. And please don't skip this step, because it is the only way to clear out all the negative energy that clouds your judgment about money. You cannot make real money in your life if your insides are screaming that money is dangerous and bad. There are many excellent books to help with further exploration of how to do this, but I'm just going to recommend one here for now that's my absolute favorite. You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. For the moment, I'm going to continue with the next steps to introduce you to the stock market, and bear with me if you think you know some of this stuff. We need to establish some basics before we dive into the last step that I talked about earlier, how to make regular monthly income. So first things first, just as you would do when you want to travel to any new place, you need to learn some basic language to negotiate freely in this world. Let's start with risk capital, because you're going to need some of that if you want to go ahead. Risk capital is an amount of money that a person is willing to invest to generate excellent returns, knowing that there is a risk that they could lose it all. So ideally, you would not risk all the money you have, but you only put a small portion of it to work for you at first. When I started, I had about $5,000 that I could reasonably lay my hands on, even though I had debts that were bigger than that at the time. I was able to turn that $5,000 into $20,000 by the end of 1 year, at which point I paid off a large chunk of those debts. I'll show you exactly how that adds up in just a moment, but a few more terms that you should know first. And if you feel like you know these, just hang in there. What is stock? What do we do when we buy stock? One share of stock represents the smallest piece of a company that you can buy. It's not fantasy or theory, it's real. When you own a share of stock, you own a piece of a company. Congratulations. Why do we buy stock? To sell it. I know some of you immediately thought, oh, to hold on to it forever and ever, like Linus and his blanket, so it will provide me security till the end of my life. No. Buying stock is much like going on a date. Some dates are awesome and end up in beautiful marriages. And some dates, well, you know, and even beautiful marriages come to an end sometimes. Did I mention there might be free and cynical dating advice included here? Well, there might be, and you're welcome. So we buy stock to sell it and make a profit. We don't buy it to hold on to forever. We don't buy it to help the company. The company can take care of itself or not, in which case that date is over, baby. So let's look at the first simple tool that you can use to start identifying great stocks to invest in. I use Yahoo Finance for my research. It's free, and it's a great place to start a watch list of stocks based on a few simple criteria. As my mentor in the Wealthy Artists Club used to say, we never marry a stock, we only date it. As long as the stock price is rising and the fundamentals on the company look good, then we stay with the happy date. So let's learn how to find some of those happy dates. Let's look at a stock chart. Ooh, sexy, right? If you don't have any idea, that's totally fine. Let's start simple with pictures. And I want you to do this every time you look at a chart. You start with the 1 year chart. So I've got 1Y highlighted up there. Does it look like this stock has appreciated or grown over time? If you had put money into this stock 1 year ago, would you have more money now? Yes, right? Is this a good date? Let's investigate a little further. What is the selling price? That is circled there in yellow. And how many shares does it trade each day? That's called the volume, and it's circled in pink. There's the average volume, which is how much it normally trades every day, and then there's a volume above it, which is how much it's trading that particular day. What does the company do? This is a basic rule of buying stock as an individual investor. If you do not understand the company's story, don't buy into it. I know it seems obvious, but when greed gets its tentacles into a person, they lose all sense of purpose. So always come back to this basic. Do you understand the story? This stock? Yep, Happy Meals, we get it, right? Or are they selling nano bitsy whoopie doopies that you can't even picture? If you don't know what they're doing, don't buy into it. So we have two important criteria so far for identifying solid stocks. We have a pretty 1 year chart picture, and I'm serious about that. And we have a company story that you understand. All right. The third piece of the pie is to make sure that the company is actually making money so that its share price will rise over time. You can do this in one of two ways. Under the Financials tab at the top of the summary page, you will find all the information about how the company makes money. There are a lot of numbers that sometimes make my head spin, but you only really need to look at the top line. Has the top line revenue grown from quarter to quarter? If the numbers on the top line get bigger from the right to the left, then the company is doing well financially. We need to see 3 or 4 quarters of top line revenue growth before we put a stock on our list of good candidates. There is also a quick way to see this in picture form. It's on the right of the summary page. This chart with the dots shows how the company performed in its earnings reports relative to what the analysts that follow the company thought the company was going to report. A green dot shows that it beat the analyst's estimate, So 3 or 4 green dots in a row is a signal that the company has shown strong earnings. So to recap, as you start to research potential stocks to invest in, you're going to look for a pretty one-year picture, a company story that you understand, and 3 or 4 quarters of top-line revenue growth. So let's say that you decided that this stock would make a good date. You decide to plunk down your hard-earned dineros and buy some. Congratulations. You are the proud owner of a piece of a company. Now what? What can you do with it? What are your options? Ooh, funny you should say that word. I was just getting to that. Options. No, it's not so scary. Here's another term in the world of big finance that people use behind closed doors that makes us little people feel like there's a big secret in there that nobody's telling us about. And the truth is, it's right out in the open if you just know where to look and how to use it. When you own a chunk of stock, it's 100 shares actually, to be precise, you can sell someone the option to buy it away from you at a predetermined price. That's all it is. The option gives the buyer the right to buy it. It's the right, but not the obligation to buy a chunk of stock at a predetermined price by a certain date. This someone will pay you a fee for this option. This is called the premium. You get to keep the premium regardless of what happens with the contract. In our digital world where all of this is done automatically, that money, that fee, goes into your account immediately and is yours to keep regardless of the outcome. Years ago, this involved phone calls and brokers, people who negotiate for you, and all such complications. But that's a story for another day. Today, you can sell an option and make money immediately. The transaction that I just described is called writing a covered call. It's basically like charging rent for something that you already own. It's a covered call because you can cover the deal with the 100 shares of stock that you will buy previously. So let's imagine that you were someone who owned real estate and you bought an apartment building. You wouldn't just let it sit there and for a few years and hope the price in the market goes up so that you could sell it down the road somewhere, right? You would rent out those apartments and take the cash every month while you owned it. So the same is true for stock. You can charge rent to some other person who wants you to hold on to those shares while they decide whether or not they want to buy them at some fixed date down the road. It's kind of like rent to own. So here's an example. Say you bought stock DAG for $20 a share. Why did you buy it? Because it fulfills the criteria and it looks like a good date. And you think that this company will grow over time. Other people think so too. In fact, they think your $20 stock might be worth $21 or more by the end of the week. So they're willing to pay you to hold on to that chunk of stock and to sell it to them for $21 at the end of a week. They will pay you $1 per share for this contract. We actually call it a contract. A contract is this negotiation with 100 shares. You are in effect renting them this block of shares, just like you would rent out an apartment that you owned. It's property that you own after all. You get that $1 per share immediately, just like the rent. Then one of 3 things might happen at the end of the week. There are only 3 things that a stock can do after all. It can rise, can drop, or it can stay the same. So let's say the stock price of DAG might go shooting past $21 to $22.13, at which point the buyer will happily buy it away from you for the agreed price of $21. Or The stock might climb a little bit and end up at, say, $20.75, at which point the contract is over and you still own the stock because the buyer only wants it if it's $21 or more. Or the stock might drop a bit too, at which point you would also still own the stock by the end of the week. In any of these cases, that $1 per share rental fee or premium is yours to keep. And the amazing thing is that you win in all the scenarios. If the stock is bought away from you for $21, you also get an additional $1 in capital gains. That's the difference. That's the amount that something appreciates from purchase to sale. So it's the difference between 21 and 20. If the stock stays with you, then you made $1 per share in premium and you still own the property that you rented. Could you rent it again? Hells yeah. Could you do this over and over again with the same 100 shares of stock? Oh yes, you bet. So let's say you stayed with this stock for 10 weeks, renting it out every week for $1 per share. After 10 weeks, you will have made $10 against the price of the stock, right? So we call this your cost basis. Your cost basis would be down to $10 per share because you brought in income against that purchase that you made. Your cost basis is what the value of the stock is to you. So let's say stock DAG is still selling at around $22 per share after 10 weeks. But to you, it's worth $10 per share because you made money against it. Imagine that there's some awful piece of news and the stock market plummets in one day. If DAG's price drops dramatically to $15, everyone else who has just been sitting on those shares is going to be crying into their soup. But you, smart trader that you are, could happily sell your shares for $15 and still come out ahead because they're actually worth $10 to you. Pretty awesome, huh? Oh, and did we add up what percentage you made on your initial investment by optioning in the first place? Let's calculate your rate of return, which is the percentage you made on your initial investment. You take the income, that's $1, and you divide it by the purchase price, that's $20, and you get 0.05, which is 5%. So that option made you 5% back on your investment in a week. If you do this every week for a month, what is your rate of return for the month? If you remember your third grade times tables, that would be 20%. All you need to know to do this option stuff is basic math, guys. Does 5% profit in a week beat that CD you thought you might get over at the bank? Yeah. Does 20% profit in a month beat inflation all to hell? Yes. I know. At this point, you're sitting back thinking, this can't be real. This is some kind of joke. If it was real, why isn't everybody doing it? Everyone is doing it. Okay, maybe not your Aunt Sophia, or maybe she is. How does she afford all those fancy boxes of chocolates she likes so much? But really, no, millions of people are using this strategy every day, and I'm going to prove it to you. Let's look a little further at that stock chart that I was showing you earlier. Let's go to the page where the options are listed for the stock, and it's actually behind on my screen, it's behind the thing. There's a tab that says options on the right of the summary page. At the time when I made this slide, it brings you to this page. At the time when I made this slide, this was a 1 week option, meaning options for sale of the stock 1 week after the date of purchase. As you scroll down, this is a list of prices that will be agreed upon as purchase prices. That number is called the strike price, where the yellow star is there. Those in the shaded area are those for less than the current selling price. So we want to go to the one that is just higher than the current selling price. After all, we want the stock to be bought away from us for more than we purchased it for, right? So this is called out of the money. The premium there is for $39.50 because the stock is selling for a little bit less than that. And the option premium is $1.15 because you sell at the bid. So if you follow the word bid down the column, you'll see $1.15. Your rate of return would be $1.15 divided by 39.10, which is the buying price, equals 2.9%. Not bad. If you did that every week for a month, that's about a 12% return on your investment. I promised you at least 10%, right? Now, look at how many people have done this trade just today. That number is called the open interest, and it shows how many people have bought or sold that option just today. Oh, 125 measly people out of the whole world, you say, right? Well, that's just this option on just this stock for just this day. There are 50 options for just this stock listed on just this page alone, with a total of, 2,259 people who have bought them. That's just this stock and just this week. Do you see where I'm going? There are thousands of stocks and therefore hundreds of thousands of strike prices and therefore millions of people making these trades every single week, every single day, in fact. No fantasy. It's very much reality, and it is right there for you to see and participate in every day, just like all these people. Here's my student, Anna. She works for IBM, and she wanted to make her savings work harder for her so that she and her husband could take some trips that they've been dreaming of. She took my class on her own online, and then we got together on Zoom so that I could talk her through her first trade. In 1 hour, she made back the investment she had made in my class, and she was on to making a real difference in her brokerage account. She had no prior experience with the stock market like you, only a desire for a brighter future. Okay, so you're probably thinking, oh, you need a whole lot of money to get started, right? Well, I told you earlier that I only started with $5,000, and that was true of Anna also. Let's look at how that works with some real numbers. Are you ready? If you learn this strategy and start putting it to work this month with just a small investment, here's a look at how you could be making some real changes in your life this year, and even how you could be seriously rolling in the cheddar a few more years down the road. This account started with $5,000, and over on the right, that column represents 10% of that number each month that will be added to the total. This investor is also going to make a really big commitment to their wealth building by adding to the account every month. That column is where there's 250, 250 all listed there. You have to bring something great to the date too, after all. When you make that commitment, you will see the numbers grow even faster, and it shows the money fairies that you are serious about this stuff. I put in 250 a month as a figure for now, but that number is entirely up to you. If you wanted to add $50 a month, that's totally fine too. If you got all excited and you wanted to add $500 a month, you will see your account grow exponentially. But just be sure it's money that you can play with and you're not siphoning off your kids' college accounts or something, right? If you commit to this wealth building strategy, you could see that $5,000 grow into $20,000 in just 1 year. Would you like that? What could you do with that extra money? Buy a new car, fix up the backyard so you can spend beautiful family time there. Take a trip to someplace you've been dreaming of when we're allowed, right? Pay off your credit cards. Yeah. Maybe you're thinking all these tools are expensive. Nope. Yahoo Finance is totally free research tool that with breaking news and real-time quotes streaming all day long. And the brokerage platform that I use is TD Ameritrade, which was voted the most user-friendly online brokerage platform by stockbrokers.com in 2021. It's very easy to use and set up an account, and you can get started with very little amount of money. And I know that you might be worried that friends or family will tell you that it's risky and crazy to put your money in the stock market. And I get it, because as we said, most people, including me, were negative first. And if you were to be just wildly plunking your money into stocks that you know nothing about, then I would agree that it was crazy. And that's what happened to many of those people who jumped into GameStop without really understanding what was going on. You see how many green dots are over there? The secret to making good choices in the market is to get a solid financial education before you decide where to put your investment capital. When you have the financial education to back you up, then you can set your family's worries to rest. My student Jessica was very nervous to take the first steps towards financial freedom at first, because she thought that being an actor, she could never learn the strategies for stock market trading. She understood the value of education, however, and before she knew it, she was making trades using some very clear rules that made sense to her and helped her be able to tell her husband and friends about what she was doing so they didn't think she was nuts. Most of us were not given a good financial education in school, so it's not our fault that investing seems like a foreign language. But unlike Mandarin or Polish, we only have to learn a few simple concepts to be able to navigate in this world. You can do this. We can do this. Your wealth is in your mindset. You are mighty and magnificent, grasshopper, and you just need a little coaching, just like the Karate Kid. Let me help you. So let me ask you a question. How many of you are excited about what we just talked about? Or how many of you are feeling a little overwhelmed because we covered a lot of stuff? Yeah, it's hard for me to gently take you through all of the steps that you need to get awesome results in just 40 minutes, right? So would it be all right if I took a few more minutes to tell you about a special offer to learn more with me? I hope that's okay. I want you to feel empowered and confident and not overwhelmed, right? I have this picture here of me and Gloria Steinem because I felt really empowered and confident in that moment. So let me show you how to take the next step. You can sign on for the online course and take it at your own pace, or for no extra fee and as a special offer because you came and joined me here today, you could join a small group live class that would be much like this, that I start up every few weeks. I start a new group. And this is an excellent opportunity to learn with me at the highest level of support, since I would be walking you through all of the coursework every step of the way. We would meet once a week for 5 weeks so that you can really focus on the new information as it is delivered. Each module is followed by practice exercises that you can do anytime before we meet the next time. These exercises go from researching a few stocks and starting a list of companies you're interested in to organizing paper trades given parameters. Each week, you will be encouraged to share your work and your questions with the group on either Facebook or alternative ways too. There is a special Facebook group where I check in regularly and I answer student questions. I firmly believe that when people learn together, they learn better. I discovered that in my Wealthy Artists Millionaires Club, and I am hoping to recreate that experience here as much as online learning will allow. Whether you decide to take the class at your own pace or to work through it with a live group, you'll be able to identify winning stocks to invest in. You'll learn how to make your purchases and what is the best timing for doing that. You'll learn trends to look out for in the market so that you can make timely choices. You'll learn how to boost your portfolio with dividends. You'll learn exactly what IRAs are and other types of account that you can use to make a difference in your future and in the future of people that you love. You'll learn how to make regular monthly income off of basic stock investments. It took me years to streamline these systems, but I have broken them down into just a couple of easy steps that you can learn in a few weeks so that you could start making some excellent returns very soon. Best of all, you can make the cost of this class back with just your first trades and then be off on your road to financial independence. You can learn all of this in one course, Fast Track Your Investments. Now, if you hang in there with me till the end, I'm going to put in a bunch of awesome bonuses, and it's not going to be this price. When I went to the Wealthy Artist Millionaires Club, I paid $250 a month and I went for 4 years. So I'm giving you all of that learning boiled down for one price. However, I also got lots of tools and I got the benefit of the collective where I could get all my questions answered. So I want to be able to give you that advantage as well. Not only will I give regular feedback in the Facebook group, but you would have scheduled bi-monthly Q&As where you can submit questions to be answered live by me in a discussion. This is an excellent opportunity not only to get your questions answered, but perhaps to hear something that you wouldn't have thought to ask, but that other fellow traders are curious about. This is like having an extra class every 2 weeks for 6 months. And I promised that this investing business wasn't going to take a lot of time, right? So I have some tools that make it simpler for you. I have a Google Calendar that I maintain to tell you about special events in the stock market that are coming up and earnings dates so that you can be alerted ahead of time and take advantage of trends. You will get a lifetime subscription to that calendar, and I maintain it all the time. It's a priceless tool, but I'm happy to help in this way. And then I also have a watch list of my own, and students add different stocks to the watch lists by things that they've been researching, and I send that out in a newsletter for a full year. As we go through the lessons, there will also be case studies of how to really use a particular stock to its best advantage in order to help you set those habits up really well so that you get used to scanning through stock charts to pick winners. I will also provide an extra PDF of 10 case studies of stocks that I found and how to use them. In addition, you will get a resource guide of all these tools and links that might be helpful to your journey as an investor. This resource guide will be constantly evolving as I find new tools and I update it regularly. And lastly, as members of my core community who start with me in my very first year, I will give you exclusive priority invitations to all the future events like courses and retreats and mastermind classes with lifetime discount of 15% off of any of that. Now, I am not going to charge you what all of this is worth, but if I did, and I could get you to where you were bringing in a steady 10% per month, writing covered calls, would it be worth it? If all that happened was that you learned how to understand the stock market better so that you could make informed choices for investments, even if you asked someone else to do it for you, would it be worth it? If you could feel more confident and empowered to take charge of your financial future without the help of a broker, would it be worth it? Remember that a financial education is not a cost, it is an investment in yourself. And because I want to see you all invest in your futures and make your dreams of financial freedom a reality, I'm going to make you this special offer because you spent time with me today. And if it's not for you, after 14 days, you can totally have your money back. No problem. If you decide, I can't do this, I don't know how to do this, I don't understand, it's totally fine. So this special offer is just for you guys for today. It's good for 24 hours with all of those things in it. And if you want to go to the link and check it out, you can do that, and that would be great. I really appreciate you spending time with me today. And I'm totally ready to answer any of your questions if you have questions. And I'll stop the screen share so I can talk to you now. Hope everybody got the link. I'll put it in the chat as well.
Yeah, you're putting the link in the chat, Diana? Okay.
Yes.
Someone was just asking for it. And there were definitely some questions. I'll wait until you're done.